Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of our Pack Proud podcast series. I am so excited today to have two people with us from the Dawson Educational Cooperative. I've got Darren Beckwith. He is the director. Good afternoon, Darren.
Good afternoon.
And I have Candace Bennett, who is the assistant director and the teacher center coordinator. So welcome, Candace, as well. We're happy to have you here on our campus and doing our podcast. And a lot of our Lake Hamilton community, when they hear Dawson Educational Cooperative, or really just Dawson in general,
right,
they think of really just our pre-K.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And they don't realize the vast support that our school and our school employees and teachers and administrators receive from the Dawson Educational Cooperative. So that's what I'm hoping we're able to accomplish today on this podcast, is to just shed some light on some of the services that you guys provide, not just our district, but 13 others. Isn't that correct?
Right. Well, we got
22 total.
22 districts in Dawson go up.
Yep.
So huge. So yes, you guys do provide and run and coordinate our Lake Hamilton pre-K, but we're going to talk a little bit later on about what else you guys do, because I know a lot of our listeners, they don't know. Right. So it's time we fill them in a little bit.
Right. Well, okay. Yeah.
So talk to me about just some of your day-to-day and what you guys do at Dawson to support. Really, let's just talk first Lake Hamilton, how you guys support us.
Well, obviously, you said that one of the biggest things that we do is the pre-K component, 4 classrooms out here now. And, that was something that a lot of work went into that behind the scenes with both the district and, at Dawson. So that's one of the things that we offer. We offer professional development, and to us, sometimes it may be something that the state mandates, or it may be the district calls and say we have a specific need that we need professional development in. If we don't have it, we have the staff that can put it together and give what I would consider very quality training for the teachers. We also like to get with work-alike groups, be it counselors, transportation folks from the other participating districts, get together and just talk about, hey, I had this situation, this is how we handled it. So to me, that's one of the most invaluable things that we do. Candace, you can jump in at any point.
You're going to let me talk? No.
Yeah, for once.
I'm just kidding.
For once.
For once, you're going to let me talk. No, like I'll say Darren, he's been at the cooperative for a while, and this is just my 4th year, and I was a middle school principal and teacher administrator, and so I even being in that role, and we utilized a lot of the literacy, math, science specialists in our building, and with the pre-K, it wasn't until I actually took that position and then realized, oh my goodness, of all of the support that we provide to the districts. Darren, he's our director, and it's like service is number one. We serve others, and so that comes top down from leadership to everyone. And just early childhood, we have speech and OT. They're just PT. We have people that go in and they'll do ed examiners that we'll send to the schools. We have school climate specialists. I think that Lake Hamilton actually utilizes those with counseling and some of the lessons for students, and just some encouragement for teachers. There's a realm of possibilities. When COVID hit, we had K6 virtual, and we had several districts that joined a consortium to kind of cost share that K6 virtual piece.
So it's just lots of resources.
Oh,
right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, for instance, we just wrapped on another podcast with Mr. Westerman and Ms. Porter at the high school. CTE is another area, career and technical, where we do there. A lot of times there may be some startup money or for a specific grant or what have you. And Lake Hamilton will say, hey, we need this. So we have a person, April Shepard, specifically on board for that reason, is to focus on the CTE, and it may be grant writing, it may be help with some of the tests that are administered through CTE. So just lots and lots of things. And I will say this to your listeners, this is a first for us. We do a podcast, shout out, Spilling the Tea in Studio D. This is, I forgot to kind of do our intro, but that's what we call ours. It's the Spilling the Tea part is really as we were kicking around the name for our podcast, we know we're late to the party on the spilling the tea thing, and we want to make our kids cringe as much as we can, right? But the T was actually teachers, educators, and administrators, right? So, but now it's kind of grown into, or osmosed into, I guess you could say, teachers, everyone and anybody, so it's something that we've been doing now for, this is our third season. So to your listeners, we're going to be bouncing back and forth, and I think this is something that's that new to us, new to you. So we'll throw out a question to you, and one of the questions we like to get to know our folks is tell us about yourself and your journey to get to the position you're in.
So most of our listeners know me. I have been involved in the Lake Hamilton School District the majority of my life. At 38 years old, I spent 13 years as a student in this district. Right. Went to college to get my degree, came back, started my educational journey at Bismarck for a year, Hot Springs High School for a year, and then I came to Lake Hamilton, and I've been at Lake Hamilton ever since. So this is year 13 now that I'm in education at Lake Hamilton, 15 years total. So 26 of my 38 years on this earth have been spent here at this district. And so
that's impressive.
I started as a math teacher. I taught math in the state of Arkansas for 5 years.
I'm a former math teacher too. Math
and
teachers are awesome.
I did. I loved it. I really did enjoy teaching math. It was a good passion of mine. I had a math degree from the University of Arkansas. Didn't necessarily get a teaching degree, got a math degree, and then ended up getting a master's in education to teach. And so I did that for 5 years, and then the last 10 years I've been the director of communications. And it's a position that I'm passionate about. It's a position that didn't exist 11 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
It's a position that they created 11 years ago for the district, and I was fortunate enough to be named the director, and it's a position that I am so proud of. And I hope that our community and our listeners and our stakeholders can see how proud I am to be in the role that I am of this district, because this is a district that I love and that I support and that I believe in. It is home to me. I know the people, I know the community, our values, and I hope that shows in what we do and what we do here at Lake Hamilton. And I think it also helps in this role that I do have the background here at the school. I do know the history of the school, and I also know history of education, and I know what it's like to be in the classroom. I know what it's like to need great communication avenues with parents. There's so many different things vying for our attention.
Oh, absolutely.
So many different things, whether it's social, ads, jobs, life, careers. How can we communicate effectively as teachers, as administrators, as a district? And so that's what I'm constantly trying to learn, best practices on what's the best way to reach these people that get multiple emails a day, multiple texts a day, multiple messages from teachers. How can we make sure that they're receiving information from our school on things they need to know and how they can be involved? I always focus on the 2 I's in my role. I want to make sure all of our people are informed so that all of our people can then be involved. Because when you have an informed community, you're going to be able to have an involved community.
Absolutely.
And you're going to have a rock star district.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
love it.
I agree. Okay, shoot. Give us your next question.
So you guys already said you have 22 districts that you work with Dawson. So how are you able to provide support for that many districts? I mean, I feel like we constantly see you guys in our district. How on earth are you in all 22 of these districts?
Well, believe it or not, we've taken on alternative ed again this year, and a lot of folks think of Dawson as the brick and mortar there in downtown Arkadelphia, but we are approaching, and we are probably at 400 employees. So we've got lots of folks, in order to to address the needs of our district. Now, there are weeks that are busier than others, and we may have to do some schedule adjustment to say we can get there, but it may or may not be on the day you want us or the time frame that you need us to come, but we'll get there. But I think that the thing that you're talking about earlier, the informed piece for us is making sure that, we are staying connected as well with those districts. And I think we do that. Candace and I are very open door, I guess you could say. And then we have people that are going out into the districts that go out, report, get back to us. But we have, believe it or not, it takes work on both sides. Like you're saying, communication is a two-way street. And not only do we depend on our districts to check in with us if there is a need, but we really pride ourselves on checking in, and it may be just to pick up the phone and say, hey, what's going on, how can we help, kind of thing. And that's the thing I love about education, albeit a big profession in the state of Arkansas. When you get right down to it, it's super I guess kind of intimate, if you will, that people within inside the education circle, information gets around pretty quick.
Yes.
And so what I would say there, that helps us out a lot. Word of mouth, we try to get out there and do what we can anytime we catch a need.
Oh yeah, like if somebody calls, they called one time and said, hey, we need somebody to come do bullying PD with our kids.
Right.
And I looked at Darren and I was like, well, we don't have anybody, but I'll go do it. So, it's just kind of like everybody steps up. Katie stepped up and had to do some stuff before, and she's like, I'll go do it. We figure out who's available. And I will say it has been tough this year, tougher.
Right.
With 22 districts, with our specialists, we have 8 content specialists, 4 literacy, 2 math, 2 science. And before Learns, it was a little bit easier for them to work through their schedules, and they may do 2 districts in a day and split a day or whatever. With Learns, when they came in, and basically our specialists have now been assigned to some of the districts, which I see value in that as well.
Correct.
There is a need, and so I totally see the need, but it was a little difficult for some of our districts because at this point they went from seeing the specialists quite often to not near as much. They're trying to get in there once a month now to see them, but they're working so hard. Our specialists are working so hard.
One thing that you just said that resonates in my mind that goes back to our profession and how it is. Education to me is such a unique profession. It is so unique in how things are done. And you mentioned earlier that people step up when needed within your cooperative.
Right.
And I just think that's the mantra for educators in general.
It
is when there's a need,
right,
you've got someone stepping up. And I see it every single day with our educators and our staff, from our front office individuals to those that are fixing lunch for our students. Today I was over at the high school cafeteria, and one of our assistant principals saw that the line to one of our serving lines was long.
Right.
He got behind the serving line, threw on some gloves, and he's helping fix lunch trays for our students.
Right.
And that's just a tiny example of some of the things that happen every single day in education, whereas in the business world, and that's my wife and I have several other businesses as well, it's not like that.
Right.
You don't have people that out of the good of their heart are constantly stepping up for the cause like you do in education. It's special.
Well, we're education service cooperative, and matter of fact, we do one word as a co-op. And this year, we kind of dialed it back and looked in, and we focus on the word serve, and we remind each other every day that's why we're here. We are here to serve. And the thing I would say about that is, the folks that we have, the majority of our folks, the certified piece of it anyway, they're coming from an education background, so they wear many hats. To the point you made, we had a district this year. that had a weapon on campus, and they really weren't equipped necessarily to check backpacks. But I had one of our folks call me the next day and say, "Hey, I'm going to that district. The process took them over 3 hours to get the kids in, and I'm going to go up there and help them be part of." The going through the backpacks and making sure we can get them in a timely manner. So it's all about serving for us.
Well, there isn't I'm sitting here thinking in my mind, there isn't a person at Dawson that doesn't step up. If anybody, they're amazing.
Well, and I'll say this too. Although we serve 22 districts, I mean, and that's our priority. But again, we do. If we get a neighboring district, let's just say that may be just outside the co-op that has a specific need, and quite possibly this is how it works because we are the best co-op in the state. There's no
absolutely.
But
you're the best co-op and you're sitting in the best district. So
yeah, absolutely. And I tell folks that all the time. I mean, we are blessed. We got the best districts in the state. But having a certain experience in one co-op may not be that way. But they know they can pick up the phone and call Candace or myself and say, "Hey, I know we're not in the co-op anymore, but can we come participate in what you're doing?" We're like, absolutely. And one of the coolest things that we've gotten to do, Candace and I we've worked together at Lakeside. She worked for me at Found Lake, or together with me, and again bringing her in at the co-op. But one of the best or coolest things we got to do, the Department of Ed, Marvel Elaine, last year they were in kind of dire straits or whatever, so they asked a co-op each week to go in to finish the spring semester. So we each took a week, and to get to go and experience something that neither one of us had. I mean, and this is what I'll say about Candace and I in working together. She's probably the one and only person that could have convinced me to spend my 30th wedding anniversary teaching at Marvel Elaine. So, but that's the kind of stuff we do.
I told you had to go. No,
yeah.
But, I did not tell him he had to go, but I told him I was.
But it's all about the serving, for us. And like I say, the majority of our folks are wear many hats. Michael and Katie, they can do PD. They go. On the road, it may be something as simple as, smart board training, or, needing fingerprints on the road. I mean, that's another thing that we do. I mean, there's lots and lots of things that we provide that aren't necessarily at the front of our minds, even,
right,
that we provide.
Well, let's talk professional development. You've mentioned that several times, and I know that is a big piece of the puzzle that you guys provide schools. Professional development continues to get, I say continues, but you mention it to educators.
Yeah.
And you hear grumbling.
Oh, yeah.
And it's something that they don't necessarily look forward to.
Right.
But one thing I can say after attending one of your professional development sessions, so much so I even hired you to come and speak to one of my conferences for one of my companies. But one thing I can say is you always make sure that it's learning,
right,
but learning in a way that is interactive and is fun and is memorable.
Well, yeah, and I think the thing about that is number one, appreciating teachers. I think they're one of the most underappreciated groups out there.
Absolutely.
So anytime I get that opportunity, that's one of the favorite things about my job. And I can tell you, the other co-op directors, I had one literally ask me, he said, "Well, why do you do that?" And I said, because, it's something, number one, I absolutely enjoy. I mean, I come from a radio background. I worked in radio prior to getting into education. But the other piece to that is the appreciation, but like you're saying, fun. I mean, even on the worst day, I mean, I always try to, step back and say, there's got to be something laughable about this. Education is super, super important, and I think it's as important as the old saying. I mean, you got to take what you do, your career, your profession, very seriously, but you can't take yourself too seriously.
Right.
And but anytime we get that opportunity to go out and speak to kids, we get an opportunity to speak to districts. I think the thing is, and Candace is good about that too. I mean, more than anything, we're going to bring some kind of humor to it, and usually it's about ourselves.
Oh, yeah,
right.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we understand the importance. Like the state has initiatives that they roll out, and our folks get trained up. in order to help them get the word out, because again, it comes down to personality, and I think the ability to relate to folks.
Yeah, connection.
Sure, 100%.
And a genuine connection.
Mm-hmm.
And it is challenging at times during professional development sessions. You get big name speakers
Mm-hmm.
who have lots of credentials,
Right. Yeah.
but they don't have that genuine connection and knowledge.
Right.
You hear, especially in education, you hear someone come in and they share strategies and tips, and I can just see in some of our educators' minds, they want to just invite that person to come into their classroom and
Right.
use those strategies.
Yeah.
And it's just so nice when you guys come in, because like both of you have strong educational backgrounds. You've been there, you've done it, you know what works.
Right.
You're able to share strategies that work. And I think that resonates with other educators, because they know that you're not coming from a corporate setting where you're just staring at data. You have background knowledge. You've been in the field. You know what works. You're able to share strategies, and yet you can still sympathize with them when they do have those stories of their struggles,
Right.
because you've had your struggles,
Right.
and
Right.
you know where
Yeah.
you have needed extra help and assistance.
And that's really another cool part about this job. Although we have an office in Arkadelphia, but with 22 districts, I mean, we can literally go find a classroom any day of the week. And I think that's important for us to stay grounded in that way, is to go out and listen, to teachers. And that's the thing, too. Teachers a lot of times will tell us things maybe that they're a little apprehensive maybe about telling their district administration or whatever. And of course, we realize, I mean, we know how to treat that situation, in that we're not out to get anybody in trouble, but it gives us an opportunity to open the door to that conversation with those folks. And I think one of the best ways we do that is getting out and being in the classrooms,
Right.
talking to folks on the phone.
Right, and we do needs assessment surveys to see what
Right.
each district needs. And I mean, with 22 districts, it's an undertaking to try to make sure, within a budget, that you provide what the majority of them need. But
Right.
I look at PD, even as a former teacher, I had some that, weren't as maybe lively as others or whatever, but I would always go into it and say, okay, I'm going to learn one new thing out of this PD. Even if
Right.
it's a 6-hour session, I'll learn
Well,
one
and that
thing.
goes back to a mindset. You had the mindset going into it that you understood, yes, this is a requirement. So you're here. Why not
Yes.
be attentive
Yes.
and try to grasp something that you can
Right.
actually utilize in your day-to-day?
Right.
And I think that's just life in general. If you have that mindset, a positive mindset
Right.
changes everything.
It does.
Right.
If you have that positive mindset, which is challenging, I mean, everybody's going to go through their struggles and their
Right.
trials and their tribulations,
Right.
but a positive mindset takes you so far in
Yes.
life,
Right.
and it really just makes your life so much more enjoyable.
It really does.
Oh
It
yeah.
really does.
Well, and I'm sitting here thinking, talking about us being involved. Like last year, I think it was the parent involvement group, and they asked me to come speak. But the good news was the majority of them didn't know who I was, so I kind of slipped in at the back and acted like I was just bored out of my mind, sighing and all that. And whenever they got ready to introduce me, Katie was like, well, he's running late and that kind of stuff. And so she said, we'll get music going and throw around some T-shirts or whatever. But once they realized the table I was sitting with, especially, that I was the guy there to speak, my whole point there was, don't make your mind up. You got to see the situation through. So it's those kinds of things that afford us to be able to get out and interact with our schools. And to Candace's credit, I will say this, within the last probably 3 years for sure, some of the I guess outside the normal school day type people, band, art, those kinds of things, she's done a great job of going out and putting PD specifically for those folks, because a lot of times you may have even coaches, they may sit in a PD. And
they're in outlier positions.
Right,
I mean, they
yeah.
live on their own islands. You've got your art teacher, you've got
Right.
your your computer lab specialist
Right.
and your coding specialist and computer science and
Right.
your coaches and your PE,
Right.
where there's typically one teacher per school, so you can't design an entire PD over that one
Right.
person.
Yeah,
And it's similar to in communication.
Oh, yeah,
and
for sure.
And I saw that need.
Yeah.
You know, as I was the president of our Arkansas School Public Relations Association, and for 3 years, and now I am the conference director for our
Right.
conference, and I just saw a need that
Mm-hmm.
as communications professionals, there's typically one per district.
Right.
And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's a lonely island, I
Yeah.
always call, where
Yeah.
you rely on that organization, just like schools rely on the Dawson Co-op
Right.
to bounce ideas. You've got to
Right.
be able to see
Right.
what's working in your school. Okay, that's working great in that school. I'm going to take that
Right.
and implement it and change
Right.
it up to make it fit mine.
Yeah.
And so we now do a communications conference every
Right.
February here in Hot Springs at Oaklawn.
Yeah.
And it has been so positive and so well received
Right.
from schools small and large. Some of the smaller schools,
Yep.
they may have a teacher that has one off period where they
Right.
try to do the communication efforts for
Right.
the district, and then you've got your larger districts that have
Right.
someone dedicated.
Yeah.
But it just allows them to grow and to learn where
Yeah.
even though they're on that island, they
Yeah.
actually have others that they can collaborate with.
Well, and that segues right into a thought I had earlier with Katie's position. She's not only in instructional technology, but she's also what we call our communication specialist, or our communication PR person. And the reason I saw the need for that, obviously, is promoting us. But more importantly, like you're saying, some of these small districts that don't have
They
the
don't have
time,
someone.
they may not have anybody, or they may have that one person, one period a day, or half a period, or whatever. But she's willing and able to go in and help with some of the website designs, or recognizing a teacher and drawing it up in school colors and that kind of stuff, and make it their own.
Right.
We also, we tell them all the time, whatever the need may be communication wise, if we can step in and help, obviously her having the skill set that she does, me with my background, we figure out between the two of us, we typically can help
We
them
can
out.
help you out.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
It-
And going back to, we're talking about, we always talk about this. It's like you're not going to please 100% of the
Right.
people
Right.
100% of the
Right.
time. But we really work really hard
Right.
to try to meet the needs and read those surveys. Some of them were
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I really need to fill this out. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
we read every one of them. And
Yeah.
so we had a need for library media specialists asked, for more PD, and Katie stepped up and was like, hey, I'll do it. And then I think Annette and Melissa, a couple of our other specialists, said, hey, I'll help you out. And it's been really great. But that's why we're always like, tell us what you need, and we're
Yeah.
going to work really hard to
Absolutely.
try to make.
And the
make
same
that
thing here in the school, we do a parent survey every spring.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And we push that out by text, by mass email, by QR codes when they come to
Right.
parent-teacher conferences. And I hope that our parents know that every single parent survey is read.
Right. Yeah.
Every one of them, hundreds of them. And we appreciate every parent for taking the time to give their
Right.
feedback, because it's something that we value. We value our
Right.
parents' feedback. We want to be able to provide the absolute best learning environment for our students. We want every one of our students, when they leave Lake Hamilton, we want them to be set up on a path to either college or career or the military. We want them to have a plan.
Right.
We want them to be productive in society. And we know that it's going to take all of us working together to get that accomplished. And so while we can't always please all of our
Right.
stakeholders and all of our parents with every want or desire, we do strive to listen and take into consideration all of those feedback, because we get some great feedback at times from these parent surveys that we do that we put in place, and
Right.
and we take action, and we really dive into and research and see if that particular feedback might be something that'll be a positive change
Right.
for our district.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
And the feedback piece is huge for us too. As far as like I said, sometimes the state with let's just take the RISE initiative. I mean, that's something that they have that's a big priority within the state. We had a couple of, well, I guess we went ahead and hired a couple of extra, knowing that we weren't going to be able to serve our schools to the degree that we felt like we needed to. So I mean, we're always trying to figure out a way to make that happen and deliver the best product that we can. And that's the other part. We meet from time to time and have those real discussions. What's working, what's not working. And again, just like in the school district, I mean, we've got some experienced folks with some brand new people, and just to be able to sit in on some of those conversations and hear how some of the things that the younger ones may or may not be comfortable with or kind of freak out about, they're able to say, hey, look, been there, done that, and we're in this together. And that's the other thing I think I love about the co-op is it's that way about anything. I think whether just like a district in some degrees, if something personal is going on, I mean, we try to lift each other up and get through it, kind of thing. So great place to be.
It's a great support system, and I will say on behalf of the Lake Hamilton School District, we are so grateful and so fortunate to have the such a positive working relationship with you guys and with the Dawson Educational Co-op. We love having our pre-K here housed at the primary school ran by Dawson, and what started as 4 classrooms is now transitioned into 5 classrooms, and we now have 100 students a year that are receiving that strong foundational support where when they transition to kindergarten, they are so set up for success to have the absolute best kindergarten experience possible. And that's possible because of our partnership. And so we appreciate you guys, and thank you guys for coming in today.
Well, thanks for having us.
Visiting with us on our Pack Proud podcast series, and we will see you next time.
Okay, we're going to go on with spilling the tea now. So one of the things I do want to ask you about, though, as you talk about the position you're in, that's one thing I will say about Lake Hamilton for sure, and maybe you can speak, you spoke to a little bit, is the importance of the position. But I feel like on a lot of levels, you guys were way ahead of the curve in naming that position. I mean, honestly, when you took that position, I think I probably knew of 2 others in the entire state between all classifications. So was that something that you initiated and told them, hey, this is something I can bring to the table?
It was, at the time, I was on the Personnel Policies Committee, and we were meeting over at the administration office several times throughout the year. And it was a need that I saw big time at Lake Hamilton as a teacher and as a parent. I saw that we could do better at making sure communication and community was one. And that stems from just communicating with what's going on, getting people involved, a consistent brand, a consistent image, just consistency all around with how our social media pages look, how our website looks, how the design looks, how the verbiage is shared. And so I met with Mr. Higginbotham and Mr. Anderson, who was the superintendent at the time, and shared with them that I thought that was a need, and they agreed that they also saw that as a need. And not only did they say that was a need, and as soon as I realized that they felt that as a needed position, I made sure to let them know that I was their guy. And so they asked me to create a proposal for this position. And so there, as you said at the time, there were very few. The ones around Central Arkansas, the one around Central Arkansas was Devin Sherrill at Bryant, and she's still their director of communications. But she was their director of communications at the time, and still is. And so I reached out to Devin, and I said, "Hey, Devin, you don't know me. I'm interested in presenting on this position." And so she put me in touch with NSPRA, which is the National School Public Relations Association. And so after getting in touch with them, they actually helped me create a proposal, and I really just got a lot of background on what this role could be.
Right.
And so I presented it, and it was presented to the Board of Education, and it actually took several months of discussion
Right.
for them to fully get on board. And luckily they did, and luckily I was fortunate enough to be moved into this position. And then I just think about a year later, one of our board members at the time, Mike Tucker, he's no longer one of our board members but served for many years, he came up to me about a year later and he said, "Brian, I don't know what we did
Right.
before we had someone in this role." He said, "It is unbelievable how much more efficient we are at sharing what's going on."
Well, and I think back to like, my years as a, let's say, building level principal or whatever, and we didn't have that person. And the thing was, of all the things that would happen, the consistency, I think, is one of the best pieces, especially today in getting a message out. Everybody had their own take or whatever, but being able to funnel it through one person and to get that message out, I think that is so important because, even back in the day, that was one more thing added to the administrator's plate.
And administrators and that's why I feel that this position has grown exponentially in the past 10 years. I will say our Arkansas Association of Public Relations Association, our organization has doubled in the past 10 years. When I joined 10 years ago, we would have our quarterly meeting with 8 to 9 communications professionals. Of course, you had your Fayettevilles, your Bentonvilles, your Springdales that had a communications director, and then it was me and Bryant and Cabot, and that was about it. And so a year or two after my position was created, then Lakeside, and then Hot Springs, and I believe Fountain Lake at one time had one, and that now it's the norm.
Yes.
It is the norm because
Absolutely.
it's needed, and that's what I say. I say it's not just the norm; it's needed. This position is needed, and I love it because no day is the same.
Absolutely. Right.
And I love it because for the most part, I'm getting to spread the good, to share the good.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Of course, when there are issues that arise, that is one part of my role is meeting with the media or writing statements or sharing information on certain situations that might not be as pleasant. But the vast majority of my job is getting to share the good.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
that is something I take pride in, and how I want to be able to share the good. I want to be able to show all of our, not just the state of Arkansas and in the nation, but just here in our community, what's going on in our schools. You hear so much negative chatter about the buzzword is indoctrination. About indoctrinating. And my comeback in response to that is we are educating. We are loving. We are supporting. We are guiding. And not only that, let me show you. And so constantly pushing out information, photos and videos and write-ups of what's going on. That way our community and all of those saying, what are our schools doing? Come look. Come visit our Facebook page. Go look at our YouTube channel. Come visit our Instagram channel and look at what's going on. Subscribe to our newsletter. Look at what's happening.
And that's really, the big reason for one of the things and for us, even on a larger scale with 22 districts, right? I mean, Katie, has done a real good job of going out and recognizing a bus driver within the district, a cafeteria worker, whatever the case may be. We want to make sure that we're recognizing those because, again, we know even the folks that have positions like yours don't have time for necessarily every single thing. So, I mean, again, I said that earlier kind of tongue-in-cheek, but we tell folks that all the time, and our other co-ops especially. I mean, we've got the best districts in the state. So, and it's for us, through the podcast and some other things that we do, I mean, we have a very strong social media presence, but it's all about recognizing the great things that are going on. And sometimes, like I said, you guys hit it pretty good over here most days, but again, there may be something, it may be a professional development where one of your teachers stood up and took the lead, and we want to make sure we highlight those folks in any chance that we get.
And it is a team, and I definitely am not taking credit for leading this whole mission, I should say, because it's a mission.
Right.
It's a mission that we live. It's a day to day.
Sure.
But I've got a great team I've got a building level communications liaison in each of our buildings that we train, and they receive a training with me every August on our communications practices and what to do and not to do on social media. But I'll brag on our staff. They are proud to be at Lake Hamilton, and they're proud of what's going on, and they are constantly sharing stories and events and classroom happenings and club and athletic and arts achievements, and without them sharing, I can't get to it all. So when they share that information with me, they're just helping with that mission of keeping everyone engaged and informed.
I mean, there's so much more good. But as humans, people want to focus on the negative.
Well,
look
and
at
as
the news.
humans,
I mean, look at the
as
news.
humans and as media is concerned, and that is the unfortunate thing is when you look at the social media algorithms and your news algorithms and your web algorithms, unfortunately, those positive stories don't always reach the number of people that a negative story would reach.
And that's why it's
so
important.
That's when I meet with, and I have been so fortunate here at Lake Hamilton to work under two incredible superintendents, Steve Anderson and now Sean Higginbotham, who I think the world of both of those men, that support me fully and allow me to meet with the staff. And when I meet with the staff, that's one of my challenges to our teachers, is to overload with the good. I want to have so much good out there that it's almost impossible to see the negative,
because there is so much
there's
good.
gonna be there's gonna be
Tons
some
more.
negative, and I know that there's gonna be negative, and there's going to be issues that arise, but I want to have so much good floating around out there that it just far outweighs any speck of negative that's sitting there.
You know, and the trip that we made to Marvel Lane just made us realize we take for granted all the good that is going on within our districts. I mean, there is a whole lot of great things going on. Well, we'll wrap ours up too, but by doing that, any advice you have for somebody, let's just say another district, or somebody wanting to take their communications to the next level, how do you see that process? What would your advice be there?
If this is a district that does not yet have a communications director or position, my first piece of advice is to create one. It will do nothing but help your district. I was approached by a superintendent in Northwest Arkansas at our conference last February, and he was in the process of creating a position for his district and wanted advice on the type of person he should hire. And he said, should I hire a former journalist, because a lot of our news and TV anchors are now having children and they're wanting to get out of that realm and into the school. He said, or should I hire a school person? And I said, well, if it were me, I would go for the school person that has a tie to your district, that is keyed in with your community, your community values, that knows the community, knows the teachers, knows the staff, has a good reputation, is approachable, because that's someone that your stakeholders are going to trust. And I do hope that Lake Hamilton would trust me, because I want to make sure that I am a trustworthy individual in this role. Once you get that figured out, my next piece of advice is you've got to get involved with our state communications association
Right.
as well as the National Communications Association.
Yeah.
As we talked about those positions that are, I call them parties of one,
Yeah.
when you're the lone
Yeah.
ranger,
Yeah.
and you need those people to bounce ideas. You need that collaborative piece
Right.
in your job. And so being a part of the state associations and the national associations, we're able to bounce ideas and have
Yeah.
others that you can troubleshoot with, or maybe I need help with some sort of statement or some sort of graphic or some sort of something I can put out in our blog and say, does
Yeah.
anyone have a sample of this? And I'm immediately flooded with some samples that I can
Right.
pull from. So
That's great advice.
Very good.
Well, you do a great job. You do a fantastic job, matter of factly, and we're just proud to be associated with the districts that we are. I mean,
Matter of factly, I like that. I'm gonna start
a
using
new word.
matter of factly.
yeah,
As a
yeah,
matter of fact.
yeah. You need put that on your
See?
word of the
Darrenism.
day.
That's that's going in my
thesaurus.
Darrenism book.
There you go.
I bet that's a big book.
Oh yeah, it is.
It is.
It's got certain chapters that you have to be 18 or older
Right.
to read, but
Right.
that's okay. But you work with Candace as long and as many places as I have, you've got to have that chapter for sure. Well, Brian, thanks for inviting us out
Yes.
today.
Absolutely.
And-
enjoyed having
yeah,
you guys.
Yeah, and thanks for being a part of our little dog and pony. We appreciate
Yeah.
that too. So, keep up the great work. You guys
Yes,
do a
for
fantastic
sure.
job out there. And again, it's easy for us to do the work that we do and be so passionate about it when we work with folks that are equally as passionate
Yes.
about it as well. So that'll wrap this edition of Spilling the Tea in Studio D. Candace, anything before we leave?
No.
Happy New Year or something? Matter of factly. Yeah, okay.
Matter of factly, have a great day.
Yeah, well said. Okay. Well, thank y'all. See you next time.